everyone, welcome back to my Earth Friendly Kitchen. I'm Maria, and today we're going to be making zucchini bread. Well, technically yellow squash bread, but they're basically the same. The reason for that is I just had a huge abundance of zucchini and squash that just blew up in my garden, and I need to find things to do with it. But this is a recipe I love. It's something that I think is a nice sweet treat, but still gives some nutritional value to the loaf. And not that I'm a fan of hiding vegetables for kids. But it is a way for them to eat some veggies without really knowing about it. And they will, not even really notice it. So I've picked the zucchini. It's a nice medium-sized zucchini. You're going to need about 1.5 cups of zucchini shreds. So I think this one is pretty good. But if you have smaller ones, you might need 2. Or if you have a really big one, maybe only half of that. So I'm going to start with this one. And I'm just going to cut it, make it a little bit more manageable. And I've got my grater here. And just shred it. I mean, really, that's what you're doing here to begin with. The reason why I'm doing this first is because I'm going to wind up squeezing out a lot of the water, and because of that it needs a little bit of time to drain. So this is the first thing that I'm going to do. Actually, technically the first thing I did was preheat my oven. So that's on already at 350 degrees. I also, oh my gosh, I'm really ahead of myself here today. I also pre-greased my pan already. So you want to do a greased loaf pan as well. So I might actually only need half of this zucchini. I thought I was going to be low. So like a 9x5 loaf pan. Sorry, I'm distracting myself. And then my oven is preheated to 350 already. So my third step of shredding this here. So that's actually way more than enough. I don't need this. I'll save it for something else. And I just have a very small bowl here lined with some cheesecloth. So I'm going to measure this out because this is actually more than what I need. So about 1.5 cups, I said. But you want to pack it in. So we'll pack this in. And it's okay if like the seeds are in there and stuff. It's not, don't worry about that being a problem. And then, actually just making it just a little bit left over. Okay, great. So that's going in a cheesecloth. So cheesecloths are super inexpensive. You can get some that you can just like cut what you need because once you use them, they're very hard to reuse. I've tried a variety of different ones to try to, because I'm all about being reusable, but I'm trying to, the ones, they're just hard to reuse, but they are super cheap. You can get them at the store, the ones that you can just cut with whatever you need for whatever you're using it with. But you see how much liquid is coming off of these zucchinis? This is why you want to do this cheesecloth and also give it time to sit to try to drain a little bit more, just because if you put all this liquid into your baked bread, it is not going to cook properly because it's just going to get super wet on the inside and you're not going to get a really nice crumb. You're going to get a very dense, very doughy kind of loaf. So I'll just try to squeeze as much as I can out, and then look at all that liquid. You see how much is in there? My goodness. When we put that in our bread, it's going to get super wet. So I'm just going to dump that out and then put this back in here. And I actually I'll save this also for another dish. I'm planning on making some raviolis with these zucchinis as well. So that'll be fun. So we'll use that in there. So, and then these will be in my discard, and then that'll add to that. All right, so then I have 2 more bowls. It's a little bit of a messy dish. Sorry, you might have to do a little bit of extra dishes with this one. But it's worth it, I promise. So I'm taking some flour. Now, I know in previous videos I've talked about I don't always measure everything. It's not always necessary. For baking, it is necessary. I'm actually going to cut this because it's so low in here. But with baking, things should be as precise as possible, just because it really does affect the chemistry of the balance of ingredients to help you get a really nice rise, a really good, you know, crumb on your bread. Now I'm just using a very basic kind of all-purpose flour. I'm doing 1 3/4 cups. Now the reason I'm using this flour, let me tell you something about this flour. So I have been gluten-free for many years because I found out kind of like, gosh, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, that I had a gluten sensitivity. Now I'm not a celiac, I'm not that severe, but it does make me not feel well. It gives me breakouts, and I'm very inflamed, very inflammatory, so I get swelling and bloating and things like that. So I just avoid it for the most part because I just don't want to feel sick. And I read, or I actually watched another chef who has an inflammatory disease say that he only uses flour from Italy because in Italy, the way they process their wheat, thought I was going to need that and I don't, the way they process their wheat is very different than how we process it in America. And so he only uses flour because it doesn't bother him, it doesn't inflame him. And I was like, maybe I should try it, you know. Don't know exactly what it is. I assume it has to do with the way we process things or the way we've modified wheat here in America. But, you know, I tried it. Let me tell you, I have no problems with this wheat. I don't get irritated. I don't get irritated. I've made pasta. I've made breads. I've made muffins, and I just don't. It doesn't bother me. It's incredible. I couldn't believe it when it actually worked. So if you are like me, I'm not saying if you're celiac, because if you're celiac, right? That's a problem across the board. But if you have a gluten sensitivity, not necessarily celiac, then maybe give it a try. It worked for me. I don't know. And it works for Chef Michael Simon. So I've also put in here 3/4 teaspoon baking powder and 3/4 teaspoon baking soda into my flour. And then I'm going to do 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm just doing all my dry ingredients in this one bowl. And then we're going to mix them up. And then a teaspoon of cinnamon. This is going to give it a really nice flavor. This is something I actually love to do, not just in the summer, but also in the fall. You know, for that, a little bit more than a teaspoon, that's okay. It's just a really nice dish. It has a really good flavor. I'm just going to whisk that all together, mix that in. So yeah, I couldn't believe it with this flour, guys. So I've been using it nonstop for all kinds of things, and now I use it for my baking, and I can eat what everybody else eats. Normally I would have to make myself a separate gluten-free specific loaf because it wasn't good for me. So I'm now going to put all my wet ingredients into this bowl, and then we're going to slowly add the dry into this bowl eventually. So it calls for 2 eggs. Now I do not recommend, or nobody really recommends, cracking your eggs over the bowl that you're going to use. You just have a higher chance of getting shell into the bowl. Those will go into my composter in a little bit because you don't want to get shell in there if you can avoid it. And it calls for 1/3 cup of oil. Just using canola oil. You can use any vegetable oil you prefer. I like to use single processed oils as opposed to vegetable oil, which is multiple oils, and I feel like that kind of mixes the breakdown a little bit. I'm going to do 1/2 cup of light brown sugar. Now, I know sugar seems dry, and you would think it would go in your dry ingredients, but in baking, it's actually considered wet. So we're doing 1/2 cup of light brown sugar. You could use dark if you want to. It's not going to make that big of a difference. It's just going to give it a little bit more of a molasses taste because that's what brown sugar is. It's basically sugar from the molasses, which is what gives it its nice deep color. And the longer it processes it, the darker it is, the more molasses. So, fun tip for you. And then I'm going to do 2/3 of a cup of white sugar. I told you, this is a sweet treat. Just because there's zucchini in it doesn't mean it's not delicious and sweet. And then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. If you have your own, use your own. If you like make your own, I know my cousin makes her own vanilla extract. One day I will get there. Her name is Stephanie Denman. Some of you might know her from the Denman Homestead. If you don't know her, go check out her YouTube channel at the Denman Homestead. Her and her husband Buddy have a wonderful channel over there, and they're actually a huge inspiration for me to start my own channel, because they are making up their own good stuff over there. So I'm just going to whisk all of this together so you can see. You just really want to combine everything, together. It's going to be a little bit grainy at first. And then we're going to actually add now back our zucchini. So this has had some time to sit. I'm just going to get the rest. See, that's why you let it sit a little bit. All as much water as I can out of there, because this is going to add to the wetness. And we're just going to plop right in there. And then mix that in, give it a nice stir, coat it all up. Oh, something about vanilla and cinnamon. Okay, so I'm just going to pour this flour mixture in. Just dump it, why not? It's not that much. And stir it all up. It's going to get to the point where it's going to be a little bit, toss flour if you want to, I don't know. Makes it a fun festivity, it's like confetti. Just stir it up, and there's going to come a point in time where you're not going to be able to really whisk it anymore, and you're going to get in there. Man, I'm making a mess today with this just spatula here, and just really incorporate it. Use a little bit of arm work here. Get some strength. Okay. So you have a nice wet batter. It's not going to be super stiff like a regular bread dough. Remember, this is kind of cakey. It's not going to be as liquidy as a cake, but it's not going to be as stiff as a traditional bread dough. So this is kind of what you're looking for here. And then you're just going to make sure it's all good. Get your loaf pan. Again, this is a 9 by 5. You can use a metal one. This is just the one I have. I have a metal one too. It's just, this is the one I grabbed. I like my stoneware for baking. I think it just heats really nice and evenly. So if you have an opportunity to get some stoneware, great. I got this one from, I believe, I have a friend of mine. She's a Pampered Chef consultant. I could provide the link to her page if you're interested in the notes. Just trying to get all that goodness. You know me, I don't like to waste anything. So, and then just kind of smooth it out on the top. Now you could add nuts to this too. I know some people like to add nuts. My husband does not like nuts in his breads or his sweets, not even brownies. I know, it's a divided household, but we make it through. But I'm just going to leave the nuts out, but you could definitely add like half a cup of walnuts or half a cup of pecans in here if you want to, and that'll be also just as delicious. So that's it. Messy, but delicious so far. It just smells so good already, the vanilla and cinnamon. So we're going to pop this into the preheated oven at 350 and let it cook for actually about an hour. Breads always take a little bit longer than cakes, so that's why, because it's a little bit denser. You want to build that crumb up. And so we'll come back in about an hour when this is done. Just going to pop it in. Okay, see you in a bit. Alright guys, welcome back. So my oven just went off, the timer. So let's go ahead and check it. Looks, oh my gosh, looks so nice and golden brown. I have this like poker that I just use. Awesome, super clean. So we're just gonna take this out for now. I'm gonna let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. I want it to cool off just a bit before I transfer it to my wire rack, and then when I put it on my wire rack, we're going to let it completely cool before we cut into it. So that'll probably take another 10 to 15 minutes at least, and then we'll come back. But oh my gosh, look how good this smells. Now this did wind up, I thought at first, I actually checked it about 10 minutes ago, and I thought at first it was going to be ready sooner, and I thought, oh, maybe I just forgot the timing for the recipe, but it did take the full 55 minutes, but that could definitely change depending on where you are, how hot it is outside, what altitude you're at. So just check it, I would say starting around the 45-minute mark to see if it's almost ready for you. But we're gonna let this sit for about 10 to 15 minutes and then transfer to the wire rack to cool down, and we'll be back to cut into it when it's ready. Okay, see you a bit. Okay, welcome back. So our loaf has been resting. It's been cooling off. It hasn't quite been 30 minutes yet. It's still a little bit warm, but it just smells so good. I can't wait. I just can't wait to cut into it for you. So this is, you know, it is a zucchini bread, like I said, so it's going to be a little bit more crunchy on top. It's going to be super soft and moist on the inside. So let's just cut into this and see. Look at that. Oh, it looks so good. See how pillowy it looks? Super nice and light. The crumb just super breaks apart. Ooh, it's warmer than I thought, still steaming. It's so sweet. If we didn't tell people it was zucchini bread, they would have no idea. You see how it just completely dissolves into the bread loaf? You don't even see it at all. I mean, and it just tastes like a delicious, almost like a banana bread, but with zucchini. And so I really encourage you guys to make this. It's just super light, super easy, a cheap bread to make, and an easy way to add some nutritional density into something delicious and sweet. So if you want more recipes like this, like and subscribe our channel, and we'll come back to you another day. Thanks for joining us. See you later.